Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and there's a hair stuck on my GoPro. And today we're going to be going over one JDM car for every budget from 1K all the way up to 25K. So the way this works is we've done this a couple more times in the past, and you guys seem to love it. So that's awesome because it's a nice little twist on the budget car videos. You know, I always do budget car videos. This one's a little bit different, so I like that. But the way it works is I start at 25K, I give you a JDM car for less than 25K, then one for 20, then 15, then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Obviously, when you get towards the end, the cars under $2,000, $1,000, $3,000, those cars are usually hoopties, and I don't recommend really actually buying them, but if that's what your budget is, that's all you can buy, those would be the best options in my opinion. Either way, let's get right into the video with the first JDM car for less than 25K. So for under 25K, I believe that the Mitsubishi EVO VIII is an amazing option. Now here's the deal. This is a pretty old car, and it doesn't really, hold up in terms of today's vehicles when it comes to performance, but it's an incredible investment. This car is going to have nothing but just good investments to it. It comes with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 6. I almost said V6, or not. Inline 4, what am I saying? Inline 4, 2-liter turbocharged inline 4, making 276 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. My bad, I was all over hell's creation there. And obviously, like I said before, this is a very older vehicle, and it definitely needs a lot of love in order to do its it justice in terms of today's cars, but it's freaking cool. It's an Evo. There were rally legends back in the day. Who doesn't want an Evo VIII? Yes, you could definitely spend 25K more wisely on a car, but that's not the point of this channel. We don't make wise decisions here. Alright, for less than $20,000, I'm actually going to be using a repeat car here from the sedans video. The Nissan Skyline GTS-T R32 obviously is a JDM car with a lot of potential behind it, but is 110% overpriced. We're going to find out that that's a trend in this video. JDM cars right now are just so stupidly overpriced, and especially these Skylines, man, the imported ones, oh my god. It comes with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 6, making 215 horsepower. This is actually an RB motor, but not the RB motor that everybody knows and loves, the RB26. It ain't that, friendo. It's an RB20, which is still a good motor, but just not as good as the RB26, obviously. You could get a GTS-T in either a sedan, so you could fit all your, all your German Shepherds in it, or you can get a coupe, so you can only fit one Pomeranian in it. It's a great car. It looks pretty decent once it's modified. Bone stock, it actually looks like the equivalent of a grandma car, but that's what JDM cars are all about, baby. You modify that thing. For under $15,000, we have one of the most overpriced cars in the game right now with the Nissan 240SX S14. A lot of people say the S13 is overpriced, and it is. Don't get me wrong, the S13, that's an overpriced car, but the S14 is stupid money. It is so stupid how expensive these cars are, especially when you think about like the engine that it actually comes with. It comes with a 2.4-liter inline 4, making 155 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. That motor is called the KA, and a lot of people like to swap the KA out for SRs because the SR is the motor that came in the Silvias over in Japan, and that's a 10 times better motor. If we had just gotten the SRs in America, this would make sense. It would make sense that the car is sitting around the $15,000 mark, but with a KA in it doesn't make sense. It honestly is a good idea to buy an S14 shell, buy a KA motor off of a truck because they came in trucks, buy it off the truck, and then put it into your shell of an S14, and you would probably save more money doing it that way. It's mind-blowing how expensive these cars are, but they are still a good choice. For under $10,000 hairs, on the other hand, I would argue that a Subaru BRZ is a pretty good option, and the reason why is no. Not because it's fast, because it isn't fast. We all know that the BRZ is a pretty slow car, but it's the same reason why you like Miatas is the same reason you like BRZs. They're incredibly lightweight. Yes, they don't have a lot of horsepower out front. As a matter of fact, the BRZ that we're talking about comes with a 2-liter flat 4, making only 200 horsepower, but it is rear-wheel drive, and that's where it all lies, okay? The car is light. Yes, it doesn't make a lot of horsepower, but it has a decent-sized engine base. You could swap a motor into it if you want a lot of horsepower, but it's also rear-wheel drive. It's just a fun vehicle. People that buy BRZs are not buying them to beat Camaros and Mustangs and Hellcats in a drag race. They're buying them to have fun with them, and I don't understand why people hate that so much. Like, people freaking hate BRZ owners because their cars are slow. Who cares? That's not why they bought the car, man. Like, my car's pretty slow too. I have an Integra that makes 140 horsepower, okay? For less than $9,000, we are going back to another very overpriced car with the Honda Civic SI 8th generation. These actually used to be cheaper, and they've gone up in price. I don't really know why, They haven't reached that age yet where they're like super valuable and super wanted, and there's still a lot of them out there, so it's not like a small supply, high demand kind of deal. But yeah, they're raising in price for some reason. They come with a 2-liter inline-4, making 201 horsepower, and it's front-wheel drive. Shout out Honda, making it 201 horsepower instead of just 200. Why they did that? Who knows? Either way, though, the SI 8th Gen, in my opinion, is one of the better looking Civics. I love the 8th Gen SIs. They're a perfect balance, too. They come with a K-Series motor in them, so you can make a lot of power if you want, but they're still reliable as hell. They get great gas mileage. They look pretty decent. There's tons of aftermarket support for them out there, but they are really overpriced, so that's the only downside. However, there is a very large like fluctuation of price when it comes to the 8th Gen SIs. Like, you can find one for like $5,000 with like 150,000 miles on it. Then you can find one for $9,000 with 150,000 miles on it. So it kind of just depends on if you get lucky or not. For less than 8K is going to one of my cars. Am I biased? Absolutely. It's the Nissan 350Z. The car's freaking great. Buy one, buy all of them. Buy mine. 20K. Just kidding. It's not going to sell for 20K, but they are getting up there. Like, $8,000 350Zs. I found one online. The one that you're going to be looking at is an automatic with 150,000 miles, and it's under 8K. That's crazy. It comes with a 3.5 liter V6, making 306 horsepower, and it's rear wheel drive. It's an incredible car for somebody that just wants to have a little bit of a fun mobile. Now, do I recommend this for a high schooler? Absolutely not. You're going to kill yourself. They have like a notoriously high crash rate for them. They are safe cars. Like, once you crash, they have good safety features in them, but they have a huge crash rate because the people that are buying them are young kids since they're so cheap, and they don't know how to. It's the Mustang effect, right? The Mustang has way too much horsepower for these little kids to be getting into right away, and then they crash them. It's the same thing with the 350Z. So just be careful if you pick one up. 300 horsepower is no joke. For less than $7,000 Machingas is going to the wonderful Toyota Supra Mark III. This car is actually, like, a lot of people think the Mark III Supra is overpriced. I disagree. I think the Mark III Supra is like perfectly priced right now. It's pretty cheap actually for what it is. Like, it carries a Supra nameplate, it has a good motor in it. It's a good looking car. It's an old JDM car. It's older than the Mark IV Supra. And it's still like sitting under $7,000. I think that's a good deal. Comes with a 3-liter inline-6, making 200 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. For the longest time, I thought that was a 2JZ GE, but I was wrong. People kept commenting in, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's not a 2JZ. It's not. It's a 7M GE is what it's called. But it's still a pretty good motor. Not as good as a 2J, obviously, but it's still a good one. You can build power if you want out of a Mark III Supra, but what I personally recommend is just keeping it stock, making it look nice, driving it, enjoying it for what it is, and then selling it once the value of these go up higher, because they absolutely are just going to keep climbing. For less than $6,000, however, is a car that used to be in my videos where I would be like less than $5,000, but it's just raising in price over and over again. It's the Subaru WRX Blobeye. Where I'm from, everybody drives WRXs, so there's millions of WRXs on Facebook Marketplace. They're all over Hell's Creation, so maybe it's a little bit. I've seen a lot of people comment like, Mark, there's no WRXs for less than 10K where I'm from. So maybe it's just the northeastern corner of the United States because there's so many of them. But either way, they come with a 2-liter turbocharged flat 4, making 225 horsepower, and they're all-wheel drive. Of course, they're all-wheel drive. Now, I do understand 110% why people in snowy areas are buying WRXs. They're good freaking winter cars. They're fun winter cars. They have all-wheel drive. One of the better all-wheel drive systems out there, actually, because it's Subaru's all-wheel drive. And they look good, they're fast, and they're rally monsters. It does make sense why people are buying these. Now, the only thing that I will say is the reliability can be an issue if you buy one that's been beaten on its whole life, but just be careful when buying one, and you'll be all right. Speaking of good reliability, however, for less than $5,000, I would recommend buying a Toyota MR2 SW20. Now, for less than 5K, I want to get this right out of the way. For less than 5K, finding an MR2 in good condition is going to be pretty hard. Like, that ain't happening. They're pretty beat up for less than 5K, but in my opinion, they're still kind of a good deal. They come with a 2.2 liter inline-4, making 130 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. They're also mid-engined, which causes for everybody makes fun of me whenever I say it, because I say it in every one of my videos. Every time I bring up the MR2, I bring it up, but it's a snap oversteer. Okay, go ahead, leave your comments down below. Oh, Mark, we're trying to go one day without mentioning snap oversteer. Listen, buddy, the car has snap oversteer, all right? I want to keep people safe, make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into before they buy it, all right? Because if not, they're going to be driving around a corner and doing donuts. It's going to look like a mod in Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be crazy. For less than $4,000, welcome to the wonderful world of Miatas, my friend. A Miata it really is always the answer. Like, it's just always has something for somebody. I've ridden in Miatas. I'm a tall boy, 6'1". Sitting in that Miata, I do feel like Donkey Kong a little bit, but it's so much fun. It is so much fun to ride in those things, dude. I want to actually be able to drive like a higher horsepower one. Either way, they come with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower, and they are rear wheel drive. Of course, you can turn this thing into like a drift car if you wanted to, or you can turn this thing into like a huge horsepower rocket machine. But you know what I recommend doing with your Miata? Changing it into like a canyon carving toge monster. Why don't people do that more with these Miatas? They handle so well. They're incredibly lightweight. Any bit of horsepower that you add onto the car is like double because of how light the car is. Turn it into a handling god. You're gonna feel like freaking Lewis Hamilton. For less than $3,000 is a car that is criminally underrated, but that's okay with me because as we've seen today, there are tons of way overrated, expensive freaking JDM cars out there. It's the Lexus SC400. Nobody talks about these because they don't come with a manual transmission, so if you're like fiending for a manual and you don't know how to swap a manual onto a car that's an automatic previously, probably not the choice for you. But either way, it comes with a 4-liter V8 making 270 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. You are not finding any car with 270 horsepower for less than $3,000 besides this one. Literally none. Find me one car for less than $3K that has 270 horsepower and I'll take that back. But you're not gonna. It also comes with a 1UZ, one of the most reliable engines ever built. They put them in the LS400s and everybody likes the LS400s. Why? Because they're reliable. Oh my god, I'm getting flustered. You know, I'm getting flustered. I'm getting riled up over here. So just buy yourself an SC400 before they become way too overpriced. They're still a good deal. SC300s, already overpriced. It's only a matter of time before the SC400s are up there too. For less than $2,000, you can get not much that's good at all. But one car that you can get that might be okay is the Toyota Celica 6th generation. You can't even get the GT for less than 2K because, you know, that's a bit of an issue. It comes with a 2.2 liter inline 4 making 135 horsepower and it's front wheel drive. Now this car does have rally heritage to it, so it can be pretty fun off-road if you want to. However, it doesn't come with the all-wheel drive like the GT4 does, so you're going to be, you know, in a little bit of a issue there, but it's still a fun car. It handles pretty well from what I've heard. It's pretty reliable from what I've heard. It's not super fast, obviously. It's a questionable sports car. Like you could argue this isn't even really a sports car, but in my opinion, I think it is. And for less than 2K, yeah, I think it's a good idea. But for less than $1,000, you can buy a plumber for 7 hours. That's it. Plumbers charge a ridiculous amount. I looked it up the other day because we were having plumbing issues at my house. They charge a ridiculous amount. But you can also buy a Nissan Sentra B15. Only the base model that makes the lowest amount of horsepower, and it's going to have like over 200,000 miles without a doubt in my mind. But you could still buy one. It's pretty interesting. It comes with a 2-liter inline 4 making 122 horsepower in their front wheel drive. They're also sedans, which is pretty handy if you have a lot of friends. I don't need that because I don't got a lot of friends. But they also aren't the fastest out there. They weren't built to like handle well around corners either. That's the SCR. So you're not going to be buying an SCR under 1K. So don't think that this is going to be like any sort of race car or any sort of like drag monster or anything like that. Like it's front wheel drive too, so you ain't drifting it. But what you can do is make it look nice, keep it reliable, daily drive it to school and back on time while at least looking pretty cool, and save up for what you really want. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of one car for every budget that's from the land of Japan. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. By the way, I know the Lexus is technically like an American car because Lexus, Infiniti, Acura, all those guys are American brands. You got to do some history, like some research on that whole thing before you start commenting. That's not JDM because the car is pretty much, like none of these cars are technically JDM, you know what I mean? Because you're buying them in America. Unless you live in Japan, then they're JDM. But what I meant by that is just Japan, okay? Like I know people are going to be like, this guy is so clickbaity. Dude, it's YouTube. The whole point of YouTube is I want to get more views. Yes, I'm going to use the term JDM when talking about Japan cars. I think everybody understands what I mean by that besides you, so just calm down a little bit. I see so many people getting upset about that nowadays, and it's just so dumb. It's the stupidest thing to get so mad about. Like, it's just, at this point, the term JDM is just a term to describe Japanese cars, okay? Like, yes, the real term is from Japan, you know, it's imported from Japan or it's built for the Japanese market. I get that, but we use it lightly, okay? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know what other one of these videos you'd like to see of the 25K to 1K series. I'm thinking about doing hatchbacks next. I might do trucks soon. Hatchbacks / wagons, by the way, because I don't think I'm gonna be able to find like 15 wagons for less than 25k, so probably gonna mix them together. But yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania. Have a nice night.